For many autistic adults, the brain has been trained since childhood to solve problems before it's been taught to sit with emotions. Throughout school, work, countless everyday experiences, success often depended on finding correct answers, identifying patterns, organizing information, and reducing uncertainty. So logical thinking became more than a useful skill. It became a reliable way of navigating a world that frequently felt confusing and unpredictable. For the ASD individual, when life became difficult, analysis often provided relief. If something could be understood, perhaps it could also be managed. If a problem could be identified, perhaps it could be prevented from happening again. If enough information could be gathered, uncertainty might finally give way to clarity. Now, these strategies are remarkably adaptive. They help most autistic adults excel academically, professionally, and creatively. These strategies allow individuals to solve complex technical problems, build successful careers, and contribute extraordinary insight to their communities. Over time, however, the brain begins applying the same strategy to emotional experiences. Emotions become problems to solve. Sadness becomes something to eliminate. Anxiety becomes something to analyze, and conflict becomes something to fix. Pain becomes something to reduce as quickly as possible. So, from the perspective of an analytical mind, this approach seems not only reasonable, but compassionate. After all, if someone you love is hurting, why would you simply observe their suffering when you might be able to lessen it with some immediate possible solutions? The difficulty is that emotional experiences don't always operate according to the same principles as technical problems. So I'm talking to the ASD spouses now. How does this apply to your neurotypical spouse? Okay, one of the quiet tragedies in many neurodiverse marriages is that people often spend years trying to give their spouse exactly what they themselves would want, never realizing that love is sometimes experienced very differently by the person sitting across from them. And this misunderstanding is rarely intentional. In fact, it usually grows from sincere devotion. We naturally assume that if something comforts us, it will comfort the person we love. If practical advice reduces our anxiety, we instinctively offer practical advice to our spouse. If solving a problem helps us regain emotional balance, we naturally begin solving our partner's problems. If gathering information helps us feel more secure, we assume more information will help them as well. The problem is this: human beings don't experience comfort in the same way. The autistic person often feels loved when someone immediately begins helping them organize the next step. On the other hand, the neurotypical spouse often feels loved only after they sense that another person has truly entered their emotional world. Neither preference is superior. They simply reflect different ways that nervous systems move from distress back to safety. So for the ASD spouse, ask your NT spouse this question later today. If I were to video record me entering your emotional world, can you give me some examples of what I would be saying and doing? That question alone can open up the door to some healing that has been hidden for decades. Please like, subscribe. See you tomorrow. Would you like to schedule a paid private coaching session? This will be in the form of a face-to-face Zoom call. Underneath any of my videos, you'll see this Calendly link. If you click on that link, it'll open up my calendar. You can pick the available days and times that works for your schedule, and I will be available on that exact day and time, and we will talk.